Hello guys, thank you for joining me today. We will continue doing some examples on scheduling using the activity on node. Previously, we started talking about how to figure out the timetable, the timeline of the project using the activity on node network. So I will continue by doing more examples, but before starting these examples, I would like to highlight one point. Sometimes we have a relationship between two activities like A and B. So this relationship is finish to start. So the finish of A means start of B. Sometimes we can find here a number, maybe positive, sometimes it's a negative number. So this number has a meaning. The meaning of this number can be a lag if it's a positive number, and it can be a lead if it's a negative number. That makes sense? So what does it mean? It means if we have here a task A and the task B, we can wait a little bit after the finish of activity A to start activity B. If we add here positive 2, that means I have, after the finish of activity A, I can wait for 2 days or 2 weeks or 2 months, whatever the unit. I have to wait 2, then I can start activity B. Yes, the relationship is still finish to start, but with a lag. So lag is the amount of time whereby a successor activity will be delayed with respect to a predecessor activity. Lead with a negative number. Lead means before the end of the activity A with 2 days, before the end of activity A with 2 days, I can start activity B. So the lead is the amount of time whereby a successor activity can be advanced with respect to a predecessor activity. Does that make sense? So be careful about these two meanings. Lag with a positive number. So the end of this activity does not mean the start of this activity. No, I have to wait more time, delay the start of activity B for this leg. So if you add this end by this leg, can give you the start of this activity. The lead means before the end of this activity with 2 days or 3 days or whatever the lead here, I can start activity B. So the end of this activity, go ahead and subtract this lead, you can get the start of activity B. That makes sense? So leads and lags can be used in the relationship between the activities. For this example, we are given an activity on node network, and it is required to complete the scheduling. Complete the scheduling means I have to figure out the early start, early finish, late start, late finish, free float, total float for these activities. So let's start with the forward base. Here is the start, 0 plus 0 will be 0. So the start node is 0. This 0 will be the start of the activity A, will be the start of activity B. 0 plus 8 will be 8. 0 plus 9 will be 9. Be careful. Between A and C, we have a direct relationship. Finish of A means start of C. Very direct. So the early start here will be 8 plus 6 will be 14. For activity D, be careful. Activity D has a relationship with A, the start of activity A, with a delay, with a lag 5 days, I can start activity D. I will start activity at day number 0. If you add 0 plus 5, I can start activity D at day number 5. Or we have a relationship between B and D, finish to start. So the finish of activity B at 9 day will be the start of activity D. So I can put here 9. So I have two options. I can use 5 based on the relationship between D and A. I can use 9 based on the relationship between D and B. We are moving forward. That means I'm going to use the biggest number, which is 9. That makes sense? 9 plus 8 equals 17. For activity E, direct relationship with activity B. So the end of activity B, 9, will be the start of activity E. 9 plus 8 will be 17. For activity F, we have a direct relationship between the end of activity C, start of activity F, but with a lag equal 8. I have to delay. I have to wait for 8 days to start activity F. So 14 plus 8 will be 22, the early start of F, plus 7 will be 29. For activity G, based on the relationship with activity D, the end of activity D at 17 will be the start of G. Or based on the relationship between G and C, there is a lead. So I will finish activity C at 14. I can start activity G at 12. That makes sense because we have advanced 2 days that can be used to start activity G. Which number I'm going to use, 17 from D or 12 from C? I'm going to use the biggest number, which is 17. 17 plus 9 will be 26. To the end, we have here 29, we have here 26, we have here 17. So I'm going to use the biggest number, 29, plus 0 will be 29. So the first conclusion, the total duration of the project will be 29 days. Let's start the second base, which is the backward base. Backward base. So your duration of the project will be 29 minus 0 will be 29. This 29 will be the late finish for activity F, for activity G, for activity E. So 29 minus 8 will be 21. 29 minus 1 will be 20. 29 minus 7 will be 22. Be careful. When you are going back, I have to change these signs. So 22 minus 8 will give you 14. Or 20 plus 2 will give you here 22. So the late finish of activity C can be 14 based on the relationship with F, or 22 based on the relationship with G. Which number I'm going to use? Because we are going backwards, so I'm going to use the smallest number, which is 14. 14 minus 6 will be 8. For activity D, it's a direct. 20 will be here 20, minus 8 will be 12. This one, we have here 12, and we have here 21. I'm going to use the smallest number, which is 12. So 12 minus 9 will be 3. For this one, be careful. This 8 will give you here 8, and the 8 minus 8 will be 0. Or this one is 12. 12 minus 5 will be 7, plus 8 will be 15. So we have two options. Based on the relationship with C, this 8 will be here 8. Based on the relationship between A and D, which is the start to finish, this 12 minus 5 will give you here 7. 7 plus 8 will be 15. So we have two options. Which one I'm going to use? I'm going to use the smallest numbers. By the end, we have here 0. We have here 3. I'm going to use the 0, the smallest number. 0 plus 0 or minus 0 will be 0. So I figured out the late start, late finish for each activity. Now I can figure out the total float. Free float is not a big deal, but the most important one is the total float. 0 minus 0 will be 0, or 8 minus 8. 3 minus 0 will be 3. 21 minus 9 will give you around 12, I think. Wow. 12 minus 9 will be 3. 8 minus 8 will be 0. 22 minus 22 will be 0. 20 minus 17 will be 3, and so on. So these are called the total float. These are the times we can delay without affecting the final duration of the project of 29. This activity can be delayed for 3 days without affecting 29. This one can be delayed for 12 days without affecting the 29. This one can be delayed. This one can be delayed. But be careful. This activity is critical A. This critical C is critical. This activity F critical. Critical means cannot be delayed. Cannot be delayed. Any delay in these activities will affect on the 29 of the total duration of the project. Let's do one more example. For this example, we would like to figure out the scheduling of the given network. So let's start with the forward base. So 0 plus 0 will be 0. This 0 will be the start, early start for each activity A and B. 0 plus 5 will be 5. 0 plus 8 will be 8. This 5 will give you here 5 for activity C, early start, plus 4 will be 9. For activity D, we have two options. We have two arrows. One will give you 5, one give you 8. I'm going to use the 8, the biggest number, because we are moving forward. So 8 plus 6 will be 14, and this activity you will have 8 plus 3 will be 11. For activity F, we have only one arrow, so be careful. We have here a lag. Positive 4 means a lag. We have to wait for extra 4 days after the finish of activity C. So the early start of activity F will be 9 plus 4 will be 13. I have to wait for 4 days. 13 plus 5 will be 18. For activity G, we have 3 arrows coming in. The first one will give you 9. The second one will give you 14. The third one will give you 11. I'm going to use the biggest one is 14 plus 6 will be 20. For activity H, we have 2 arrows coming in. The first one will give you 9 from C. The second one will give you 11 from E. I'm going to use the biggest one, 11. 11 plus 4 will be 15. This 15 will be the same early start for activity J, plus 2 will be 17. For activity I, we have 2 arrows coming in. This one will give you early start 18. This one will give you early start 20. I'm going to use the biggest number, 20. So I cannot start activity I until 20 days. 20 plus 7 will be 27. The end of the project or the finish of the project, we have here 27 coming in, 17 coming in. So the end will be 27. 27 plus 0 will be 27. So the final conclusion from the forward base, the total duration of the project equal 27 days. I'm assuming my unit is days. Then let's start the backward base. So I'm gonna start with 27. Minus 0 will be 27. This 27 will be the same here. Let's finish. Let's finish for these activities. 27 minus 7 will be 20. 27 minus 2 will be 25. This 25 will be here the same. 25 minus 4 will be 21. We have here 20 will be the same here 20 and will be the same here 20. No problem. 20 minus 6 will be 14. 20 minus 5 will be 15. Does that make sense? Let's talk about activity C. From F to C, we have a lag. If you are going backward, I will assume this number is negative. So 15 minus 4 will be 11. That makes sense? 11 minus 4, this 4 will be 7. For activity D, we have only one arrow coming back. So 14 will be here 14. Minus 6 will be 8. For activity E, we have two arrows coming back. This one will give you 21. This one will give you 14. I'm going to use the smallest number, 14. I think I have error here. This one is, we have here 11, and this one is 7. This one, which is coming from F, we have another number coming from G, which is 14, will give you 10. We have another number coming from H, 21, will give you here 17. Which number? I'm going to use the smallest number. So I'm going to use 11 and 7. That makes sense? 11 and 7. So be careful when you have many arrows coming back. I have to respect all of them, and I have to use the smallest one. Okay. This one is 21 coming back. This one is 14. So I'm going to use 14 minus 3 will be 11. For this activity B, we have two arrows coming back. So we have 11, we have 8. I'm going to use 8. Minus 8 will be 0. This activity has two arrows coming back, 8 and 7. I'm going to use 7. Minus 5 will be 2. We have here two arrows coming back. We have 0 and 2. I'm going to use the smallest number, 0 minus 0 will be 0. Looks good. So far, so good. So in the backward base, we are using the smallest number from the activity to the predecessors. Let's start to figure out the total float. Total float is a big deal. So the total float here will be 2. The total float here will be 0. We have here 3. We have here 0. We have here 2. We have here 2. We have here 0. We have here 0. We have here 10. Wow. We have here 10. These are the total floats. So these activities can be delayed for some days, but we have critical activities. This one B is critical. This one D is critical. This one G is critical. This one I is critical activity. Critical means the total float equals 0. These activities are critical because any delay in these activities will affect on the final duration of the project. One more example. We are given the network is ready for you. I will start here with the start. And I will finish here with the finish. We have to finish all the last activities in one note. So let's start with the forward base. If you start it with 0, these activities will start with 0, A and M. So 0 plus 8 will be 8, 0 plus 12 will be 12. 8 and B, it's a direct relationship. So this 8 will be the early start for activity B, plus 4 will be 12. For activity D, we have direct relationship finish to start. We have here 12 plus 2 will be 14. 12 will be here 12 for early start for activity E, plus 14 will be, I think, 26. For activity C, be careful. For activity C, we have two relationships. The first relationship is start of B means start of C, start to start relationship. That means the start of activity B at 8 will be 8, the start of activity C. Or We have a finish to start relationship with activity D with a delay with a lag equal to +2. So that means the end or the finish of activity D at 14. That means the start of activity C at 16. I have to wait for 2 days. Which one I'm gonna use, which one I'm gonna respect? With B or with D, I'm gonna respect the biggest number, which is 16. 16 plus 6 will be 24. I'm sorry, 22. In this one, we have two relationships between D and F, between E and F. D means the finish of D, start of F. So it will be 14. For E and F means end or finish of E at 26. I have to wait for 5 days, lag, then I can start F. That means it will be at 31. So I have two numbers. Which one I'm going to use? I'm going to use the biggest number, which is 31. 31 plus 7 will be 38. For activity K is a direct, the end of activity E means the start of activity K. 26 plus 6 will be 32. For activity G, we have only one arrow with a lag 3. So 22 plus 3 will be 25. The start of activity G plus 5 will be 30. For H, it's a direct. I have a mistake here. I have a mistake. Wait. Because activity G has two arrows. I have to respect both of them. This one will give you 25. But with F, this one will give you 38. The start of G will be at 38 with respect to F. The start of G will be 25 with respect to C. Which one I'm going to use? I'm going to use the biggest number, 38. For H, it's one arrow, so this one will be 38. Plus 7 will be 45. I forget here, 38 plus 5 will be 43. For activity I, we have two arrows. I have to respect both of them. This one will give you 32. This one will give you 38. I'm going to use 38 plus 9 equal 47. So the final duration of the project, we have here 43, 45, 47. It will be 47. So I can say the total duration of the project equal 47. Let's start to move backward base. I will start here the late finish for these activities. The last activities will be 47, will be 47, will be 47. 47 minus 5 will be 42. 47 minus 7 will be 40. 47 minus 9 will be 38. So we have 42 going back to C. I have to subtract the 3, so it will be 39. Minus 6 will be 33. For activity F, I have 3 arrows coming back. One will bring 38, one will bring 40, one will bring 42. Which one I'm going to use? I'm going to use the smallest number, 38. That makes sense? 38 minus 7 will be 31. For activity K, we have only one arrow coming back with 38. Minus 6 will be 32. For activity E, we have two arrows coming back. The first one from F, 31 minus 5 will be 26. The second one, 32, will coming back with 32. I'm going to use the smallest number, 26. Minus 14 will be 12. For activity D, we have two arrows coming back. One will bring 31, and this one will bring 33 minus 2 will be 31 also. Which one I'm going to use? Both of them the same, but by the way, I'm going to use the smallest one, 31. So 31 minus 2 will be 29. This one, we have only one arrow coming back to the start, so be careful. 33 will go back to be the start here, 33. Plus 4 will be 37. This is the late start, late finish. For activity A, we have one arrow coming back 33, minus 8 will be, I think 25. For activity M, we have two arrows coming back, one was 29, one was 12. So I'm going to use the smallest number, 12. Minus 12 will be 0. 0 and 25 will be 0, the first start of the project. So now I figured out the late start, late finish for each activity. So I can figure out the total float for each activity to figure out the critical basis. I'm sorry, the critical activities. So this one will have 25 total float. This one will be 0. This one will be 0. This one will be, I think, 17. This one will be too much. It will be 25. Wow. This one will be, I think, 17 delays or total float. This one will be 0. This one will be 6. This one will be 0. This one will be 2. This one will be 4. Be careful about the critical activities. This one is critical. This one is critical. This one is critical activity. This one is critical. These critical activities, we have to be careful about them because any delay in these activities will affect on the final time duration of the project. So I would like to define the critical activities. Critical activities is any task that must be completed on schedule to meet the project deadlines. Any delays in one of these activities will affect on the entire project duration. The critical activities will be defined by 0 value for the total float. That makes sense? This is what I covered so far. Any activity with total float equals 0 will be considered critical activity. These critical activities will create something called critical path. So the critical path in this project will be activity M to activity E to activity F to activity I. You have to go through the critical activities. This path will be called critical path. The critical path is the network path that has or have the least slack in common. Sometimes we have many critical paths. Sometimes we have one, we have two, we have three, but at least we must have at least one. The critical path can be defined as the longest path through the activity network or the shortest time to finish up the project. The shortest time to finish up the project or the longest path through the activity network. It is important because it impacts the completion time of the project. We have to put the best people on these activities to finish on time. We have to pay extra attention to these activities to avoid any delay. We have more examples. This example, I will start it from scratch. So we are given activities A, B, C, D until I, the duration of each activity, and what is the relationship or what are the predecessors. Then we need to start to figure out the network first. Then we need to calculate the schedule, forward path, backward path, what is the total duration of the project, what is the critical path, and what is the early start, early finish for each activity. So I will start here with activity A and B looks like are the start activities in this project because we don't have any predecessors. So I will start with activity A. activity A with a duration equal 5, activity B with a duration equal 4, and I can say this is my start, and I can say this is the start activities, A and B. C has a predecessor A. D has a predecessor A. So I will put C, I can put C here. And I can put D here. The duration for C is 3 and D is 2. Make sure the relationship is not given, but we will assume it finished to start. So I am done with C and D. For activity E, E has a predecessor B and C. So I will put E here. The duration for activity E is 5. I forget to put the relationship between C and D, both of them. C and D has predecessor A. So this is A, this is A. For activity E has predecessor B and C. We have here B and C. Does that make sense? This is for E. We have another activity F has a predecessor B and C, so I can put F here. With a duration equal 6. The predecessors for F, B, and C. So here is B, and here is C. That makes sense? This is for F. For G, we have a predecessor D and E. This is for G. So I can put here G. With the duration equal 8. This G has a predecessor D and E. D and E. We have another activity H with a predecessor D and E. I can put H here. The duration for activity H is 4 with a predecessor D and E. Here is D and E. I can readjust this one to be like this. There is one more. I has a predecessor F and G. F and G, so I can put I here. We have a very limited space. So I has a duration equal to with a predecessor F and G. Here is F, here is G. So the last or the finish, I can put the finish here. I'm sorry for this limited space. This is the finish and this is the finish. The two activities, H and I, are the finish of the project. That makes sense? Okay. So I will start with the forward. Beth. So if you start with 0, 0 for these two activities A and B. So this one will be 5, this one will be 4. For activity D, this one will be 5 plus 2 will be 7. For activity C, this one will be 5 plus 3 will be 8. For activity E, I have two arrows. One will give you 8, one will give you 4. I'm going to use 8 plus 5 will be 13. For activity F, I have one will give you 8, one will give you 4. I'm going to use 8 plus 6 will be 14. For activity H, I have two arrows. One will give you 13, one will give you 7. I'm going to use 13. Plus 4 will be 17. This one, we have two arrows. One will give you 7, one will give you 13. I'm going to use 13. Plus 8 will be 21. Activity I have two arrows, 21 and 14. I'm going to use 21. Plus 2, 21 plus 2 will be 23. So the final or the finish, we have 23 and 17. I'm going to use 23. So I can say the total duration of the project equal 23 days. After you are done with the first path, which is the forward path, and you figured out the total duration, I can start the backward path. So I will start here the late finish for these last activities, 23 and 23. 23 minus 2 will be 21. 23 minus 4 will be 19. This 21 will be the same here, 21, and will be the same here, 21. 21 minus 8 will be 13. 21 minus 6 will be 15. For activity E, we have two arrows coming back, one with 13, one with 19. I'm going to use 13. Minus 5 will be 8. For activity D, we have two arrows coming back, one with 13, one with 18. 19. I'm going to use the smallest one, which is 13. Minus 2 will be 11. So activity C, we have two arrows coming back, one with 15, one with 8. I'm going to use 8. Minus 3 will be 5. For activity B, I have two arrows coming back, one with 8, one with 15. I'm going to use 8. Minus 4 will be 4. For this activity, we have 11 coming back. We have 5. I'm going to use 5. Minus 5 will be 0. Then I am done. I'm good. Because the 4 and the 0 will be 0. So I figured out the late start, late finish for each activity. Let's do the total float. The total float for this one will be 0. For this one will be 4. For this one will be 6, I think. This one will be 0. This one will be 7. This one will be 0. This one will be 6. This one will be 0. This one will be 0. So, which activities are critical? A, C, E, G, I. This path in the project, which is called from activity A to activity C to activity E to activity G to activity I, this one is called critical path. So I answered the first two questions. What is the total duration of the project? It's 23 days. What is the critical path in this project? I answered this question. It's the path A, C, E, G, I. The last question, what are the early start, late start for activity E? Where is activity E? This is activity E. Go ahead and find out what you want. This value is early start, this value is early finish, this one is late start, this one is late finish. Whatever you want, you can find. So we are looking for early start will be 8. Late start for this activity also will be 8. Does that make sense? This is for example number 4. We have another example here. We are given the relationships and we would like to construct first the network and then We need to answer these three questions. So we have activity A, B without any predecessors. So looks like these are the start of the project. A and B. The duration for activity A 8, for B 9. For activity C has a predecessor A. So I can put C here. And D will be here. The duration for C is 6. The duration for D is 8. For C, we have a predecessor finish to start A. For D, we have a predecessor A and B. But be careful. For the relationship between D and A, it's a start to start. Start to start. Between D and B, it's a finish to start. I have a little mistake here. The relationship between D and A, it's a start to start with the leg 5. So I have to put here positive 5. This is for C and D. The next one is E. E has a predecessor B, so I can put E here. With the duration equal 8. And the relationship between B and E is finished to start. F has a predecessor C. So I can put F here. With finish to start relationship with C. With the lag equal 8. The duration for F is 7 days. So be careful because the lag is given. The type of the relationship is given. Activity G has a predecessor C and D. C and D. C and D. So I can put here activity G with the duration equal 9. The relationship between G and the C is finished to start with the lead 2. With C here, this one, with the lead equal 2. That means we have negative 2 here. And the relationship between G and D finished to start without any lag or lead. Between D and G. So be careful. I have to finish the project. Like I have to start the project. So I can put here this relationship start to start. Start of these activities A and B, and this activity will be ended here. And this activity will be ended here, and this activity will be ended here. So this is activity on node network. I set up this network from the given information in this table. Let's start to calculate our timetable. So I will start with the forward base. If you start your activities, the first activity with 0, 0 plus 8 will be 8, 0 plus 9 will be 9. For activity C, I can start it at 8 plus 6 will be 14. For activity D, be careful. We have two errors. One will give you 9, and the second one will give you 5. 0 plus 5 will be 5, and this one will give you 9. So I'm going to use the biggest number, 9. 9 plus 8 will be 17. For activity E, we have only one arrow, will give you 9, plus 8 will be 17. For activity F, we have only one arrow. The end or the finish of activity C at 14, I have to wait lag for 8 days. That means I have to start F at 22 days. 22 plus 7 will be 29. Does that make sense? For activity G, we have two arrows. One will give you 17 and the second one will give you 12. Yes, I finish activity C at 12, but I can lead activity G with 2 days. So I can start it at 12. So I'm going to use 17. Plus 9 will be 26, I think. The finish, we have here 29, we have here 26, we have here 17. I'm going to use 29. Plus 0 will be 29. So the final conclusion is the total duration of the project will equal 29. Let's start the backward path. So the late finish for these last activities will be 29. Let's move back. This number should be written here. 9. 29 minus 7 will be 22. 29 minus 9 will be 20. 29 minus 8 will be 21. For activity C, 22 minus 8 will give you here 14. 20 plus 2 will be 22 here. Be careful when you are moving backward, we have to change these signs. So which number I'm going to use? I'm going to use the smallest number, which is 14. Minus 6 will be 8. This one will give you 20. Minus 8 will be 12. We have here for activity B, we have 12 coming back. We have 21 coming back. I'm going to use 12. Minus 9 will be 3. For activity A, we have 8 coming back. So we have 8 minus 8 will be 0. Or we have 12 minus 5 coming back will give you here 7. And this one will be 15. I'm going to use the smallest number, which is 8 and 0. After you are done, I can start to figure out the total float for each activity. So the total float here will be 0, will be 0, will be 0, will be 3, will be 3, will be 3, will be too much here. I think it will be 12. So this one will be critical. This one will be critical. This one will be critical. So I can say activity A to activity C to activity F are the critical path. So I answered the first question. What is the total duration of the project? It's 29 days. What is the critical path of this project? Is activity A to C to F. What is or what are the early start, late start for activity C? Here is activity C, and this number is the early start, and this number is the late start. That makes sense? The last example in this video is this one. We need first to construct, to create the activity on node network. Then we need to make scheduling for this project. We have here activity A without any predecessors. So here is activity A. Looks like activity A is the first activity in the project. The duration of this activity A equal 4 days. The following activities will be B, C, and D. B, C, D. That makes sense? All of them has preceding A or predecessors A. So I will put here B, C, and D. B, C, and D. The duration for these activities 2 to 4. 2, 2, 4. All of them has predecessor A, and E. The between B and A finish to start with a lag 2. B and A. Between B and A, we have here positive 2. That makes sense? Between C and A, finish to start without a lag. Between D and A, finish. Oh, we have a mistake here. Between D and A, it's a start to start with a lag 2. Between D and A. D and A, this relationship is wrong. It's start to start with a lag 2. Start to start with a lag 2 between A and D. Be careful about the given relationship and what is the lag given. E has a predecessor B, finish to start without a lag. So E can be drawn here. With a duration equal 2. And the relationship is finished to start. For activity F, has a predecessor C, finished to start without a lag. C, I'm sorry, activity F can be drawn here. With a duration 2, finished to start with C, without a lag. G has a predecessor D, finished to start without a lag. So I can put here activity G. The duration of activity G is 6, finished to start with D. Very simple. For activity H, has a predecessor D with a duration 2 and finish to start with a lag 2. So I can put here H with a duration 2, finish to start with D with a lag 2, I think. Let me, yes. Activity I has a predecessors E, F, G, H. E, F, G, H looks like we have here the last activity in the project, which is called activity I with a duration equal to, and the relationship with these activities finish to start. That makes sense? So I started this project with activity A, and I will finish this project with activity I. Let's start to talk about the forward path. If you start here with 0, the first activity plus 4 will be 4. This 4, I'm sorry, I will use the 0. Start of activity A means the start of activity D, but you have to wait for 2 days. So this one will be 2. Plus 4 will be 6. For activity C, finish of A means the start of C. For activity B, finish of A, you have to wait for 2 days more, so I can start B at 6. So 4 plus 2 will be 6. 6 plus 2 will be 8. For activity H, for example, the finish of activity D at 6, you have to wait for 2 days. That means I can start H at 8. Plus 2 will be 10. For activity G, I can start at 6 plus 6 will be 12. For activity F, I can start at 6 plus 2 will be 8. For activity E, I can start at 8 plus 2 will be 10. So for activity I, we have 4 errors coming in. One was 10, 12, 8, 10. I'm going to use the biggest number, 12. Plus 2 will be 14. So I can say the total duration of the project equal 14 days. Let's move backward. Path, I can start is was 14, minus 2 will be 12. We have here 12, we have here 12, we have here 12, we have here 12. 12 minus 2 will be 10, 12 minus 6 will be 6, 12 minus 2 will be 10, 12 minus 2 will be 10. This 10 will be here 10, minus 2 will be 8. This 10 will be here 10, minus 2 will be 8. This 6 can be here 6. This 10 minus 2 can be 8. So we have 8 and the 6. I'm going to use 6 as the smallest number. 6 minus 4 will be 2. For activity A, this 2 minus 2 will bring here 0, and this one will be 4. This one can bring 8. This one can bring 6. I'm going to use the smallest number, 4 and 0, and that makes sense. You have to go back to the 0. Once we finish the late start, late finish for each activity, I can figure out the total float. This total float will help you to figure out the critical activities. This one will be 0, this one will be 0, this one will be 2, this one will be 0, this one will be 4, this one will be 2, this one will be 4, this one will be 2, this one will be 0. The critical activities with 0, 0 total float. So the critical activities will be A to D to G to I. This one is called critical path. And there is one more question. I answered this one. I answered this one. What is the early start, late start of activity F? Where is activity F? This is activity F. This is the early start, 6. This is the late start, 10. So it will be 6 and 10.